We were dealing with the lesson Discovering Tut. The saga continues. Recap. Ancient Egyptians gave their kings the title of pharaoh. Tut was the pharaoh of ancient Egypt. Tut was just a teenager when he died and was the last heir of a powerful family that had ruled Egypt for centuries. He was laid to rest, laden with gold. His tomb was discovered in 1922 by the British archaeologist Howard Carter. The modern world has speculated about what happened to him. It is also thought that he could have been murdered. It is now more than 80 years when his body was taken out of the tomb and was undergone a CT scan. A strong dusty wind was blowing when King Tut was taken from his ancient resting place known as the Valley of Kings. On January 5, 2005, the world's most famous mummy was put into a CT scanner. Tourists from around the world had come to visit the tomb. Tourists looked with wonder on the walls of the burial chamber and at Tut's gilded face. The most striking thing was the outer lid of the coffin that was shaped like the mummy itself. Now we will continue. For several hours, he set the mummy outside in blazing sunshine that heated it to 149 degrees Fahrenheit. In the last class, we learned that the resins became hard and his body was stuck to the bottom of the gold coffin. And whatever amount of force was applied, Carter was not able to move the body. Now Carter moved the body outside to the sun and he kept it in the blazing sunshine. Blazing means burning. Nothing budged. Budge means made slight movement. Nothing melted the resins and could bring a slight movement to the body. He reported with scientific detachment that the consolidated material had to be chiseled away from beneath the limbs and trunk before it was possible to raise the king's remains. He reported with scientific detachment that the body had to be cut with chisel. Chisel is a hand tool used to cut or shape wood. So the body had to be cut with chisel from below the limbs and trunk, and then only he can move the body and use it for investigation. So this is the damage Carter had done, which was referred earlier by Zahi Hawass. Look at the screen. This is chisel. You might have seen the tool used by the carpenters. In his defense, Carter really had little choice. Defense means self-protection. When people started questioning Carter about the damage, he had no other choice. If he hadn't cut the mummy free, thieves most certainly would have circumvented the guards and ripped it apart to remove the gold. He told them that if he hadn't cut the mummy and preserved all the treasures, the thieves would have come and cheated the guards and would tore the mummy apart to take away all the gold. Circumvented means find a way around. Ripped apart means tore away forcefully. He told the people that If he didn't do, someone else would have done it. In Tut's time, the royals were fabulously wealthy, and they thought or hoped they could take their riches with them. In Tut's time, that is some 3000 years ago, the kings were fabulously means extremely rich, and they believed that when they die, they could take all the gold with them. For his journey to the great beyond, means for his afterlife, King Tut was lavished with glittering goods. For his afterlife, King Tut had so many glittering goods. Precious collars, inlaid necklaces and bracelets, rings, amulets, a ceremonial apron, sandals, sheets for his fingers and toes, and the now iconic inner coffin and mask, all of pure gold. So these are the things, the glittering goods that were kept along with his body in the tomb. All these items showed his riches, and they were all made of gold. Even the inner coffin itself was of pure gold. Sheath means covering. To separate Tut from his adornments, Carter's men removed the mummy's head and severed nearly every major joint. Severed means cut off or broke away. Carter's men removed the mummy's head and cut off every major joint to separate Tut from his adornments. Adornments means ornaments. Once they had finished, they reassembled the remains on a layer of sand in a wooden box with padding that concealed the damage. The bed where Tut now rests. After their study was over, they reassembled it in a box, and they also put some padding on it. Padding means they put some cloth or cotton on the damage and they hid it. Then they put it back to the place where Tut rests now. Archaeology has changed substantially in the intervening decades, focusing less on treasure and more on the fascinating details of life and intriguing mysteries of death. Archaeology is the study of human history and prehistory, using the sites and artifacts and other physical remains. In all these decades now, there has been a great deal of change in archaeology. They don't focus much on treasure, but on other details such as life and death of certain people. Intriguing means fascinating. It also uses more sophisticated tools, including medical technology. They use more sophisticated means advanced tools and medical technology to find out the details of life and death. In 1968, more than 40 years after Carter's discovery, an anatomy professor x-rayed the mummy and revealed a startling fact beneath the resin that cakes his chest. His breastbone and front ribs are missing. Startling means surprising. In 1968, that is about 40 years after Carter's discovery, an anatomy professor, when he x-rayed the mummy of Tut, he revealed the surprising fact that just below the resin that was covering Tut's chest, his breastbone and front ribs are missing. Today, diagnostic imaging can be done with computer tomography or CT, by which hundreds of X-rays in cross-section are put together like slices of bread to create a three-dimensional virtual body. CT means computed tomography. Virtual body means not real. We use CT scan, which is an advanced technology where we can get a three-dimensional image like 100 of X-rays put together. A very clear 3D image of the body will be got and can create a virtual body and study more details in a very clear manner. What more would a CT scan reveal of tooth than the X-ray? And could it answer two of the biggest questions still lingering about him? How did he die? Or how old was he at the time of his death? People are worried whether CT scan can reveal more than what X-ray has done, and could it answer the questions that are still about him? That is, how did he die and how old was he at the time of his death? These are the two questions all who are studying about tooth are trying to answer. King Tut's demise was a big event even by royal standards. His death was a big event as he belonged to a royal family. Even great kings were surprised at his death. He was the last of his family's line, and his funeral was the death rattle of a dynasty. Tut was the last heir from his royal family, and his death shook the whole dynasty. And it was the death rattle, means end of a dynasty. But the particulars of his passing away and its aftermath are unclear. Aftermath means consequences of an unpleasant event. It's not clear how he died and what happened after his death. Amenhotep III, Tut's father or grandfather, was a powerful pharaoh who ruled for almost 4 decades at the height of the 18th dynasty's golden age. Amenhotep III, King Tut's father or grandfather, it's also not clear. He was a powerful king of 18th dynasty and he was able to rule for 4 decades. A decade is a period of 10 years. So 4 decades means 440 years. He was known as the Magnificent, who ruled over Egypt during a time of great prosperity. His son, Amenhotep IV, succeeded him and initiated one of the strangest periods in the history of ancient Egypt. Initiated means started. After the death of Amenhotep III, his son, Amenhotep IV, succeeded him. He came to power, and his period was a very strange period. Let's see why his period is said to be a strange one. The new pharaoh promoted the worship of the Aten, the sun disk, changed his name to Akhenaten or servant of the Aten, and moved the religious capital from the old city of Thebes to the new city of Akhetaten, known now as Amarna. The new king, Amenhotep IV, promoted the worship of Aten, that is sun disk. The sun disk represents sun god, and changed his name to Akhenaten, which means servant of the Aten. He then changed the religious capital as well, from Thebes to Akhetaten, known now as Amarna. He further shocked the country by attacking Amun, a major god, smashing his images and closing his temples. He broke all the statues of Amun, who was a major god of that time. He also closed up all the temples. It must have been a horrific time, said Ray Johnson, director of the University of Chicago's Research Center in Luxor, the site of ancient Thebes. Ray Johnson, the director of the University of Chicago, who had opened the research center near ancient Thebes, had the opinion that this period would have been a horrific time, that is, the period of King Amenhotep IV. The family that had ruled for centuries was coming to an end, and then Akhenaten went a little wacky. Wacky means funny or behaving in an odd way. That family, who had ruled for so many years, was coming to an end because Akhenaten became little crazy. After Akhenaten's death, a mysterious ruler named Smenkhare appeared briefly and exited with hardly a trace. After the death of Amenhotep IV, that is Akhenaten, there came a new ruler named Smenkhare. He was there only for a short period and he disappeared with no trace of his rule. And then a very young Tutankhaten took the throne, King Tut, as he is widely known today. After him came a very young ruler, Tutankhaten, that is King Tut, as he is widely known today. The boy king soon changed his name to Tutankhamun, living image of Amun, and oversaw a restoration of the old ways. Boy king changed his name from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun, the living image of Amun, that is the major god. When he became the king, he started bringing back the old ways. Restoration means act of returning to original condition. He reigned for about 9 years and then died unexpectedly. King Tut ruled for 9 years and suddenly he died. Hope you all understood. We'll stop for now.